WWE is in hot water with fans due to a very controversial segment involving El Grande Americano. And quite honestly, guys, WWE is getting this backlash and WWE has yet to respond to it. But we're going to talk about exactly what makes it controversial and why I simply don't agree. Plus, we're going to talk about an AEW star actively talking about potentially going to WWE. And yes, we are going to talk about AEW not signing some free agents. So I want to kick things off first and foremost with the Dynasty. Obviously, a lot of talks and a lot of rumors, a lot of fan speculation that maybe this former faction would be returning to AEW, which, by the way, fans need to stop getting disappointed when their, fantasy bookings and things doesn't actually come to life. Obviously, if you've been following AEW, there's a really cool storyline going on between MJF and MVP, the Hurt Syndicate. A lot of people have believed and have kind of I don't know where it necessarily started, but it seems like fans have pushed a narrative that maybe Alexander Hammerstone, who, by the way, is no longer with TNA, and then Richard Holiday and Gino Medina could potentially come to AEW and join alongside MJF. Now, with that being said, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select actually came out and said during a Q&A recently that basically Alexander Hammerstone and Richard Holiday have not been signed by AEW. He says, with MJF getting the business card from MVP, is there a chance MJF reaches out to Hammerstone and Holiday reforms the Dynasty to go against Hurt Syndicate? Obviously, Sean did his research, and it's a very reasonable question. So what did he do? He asked his sources about it, and he was told that's not the plan as of now, and that those two are not signed to AEW. He says that he wishes they were. I think they'd both do great in AEW. I actually agree heavily with Sean Ross Sapp about this because, quite honestly, the Dynasty was a really cool faction. Anybody who watched MJF before going to AEW is very well aware of this group. And with Hammerstone not being picked up by WWE yet, and not being signed to TNA, obviously it looks like he's just going to be doing the indies for a while. Maybe there's a chance he could go back to MLW. But the reality is Hammerstone is free. Like, he can go and he could sign, right? So Tony Khan and AEW have decided not to go this route at this time. Quite honestly, I would like to see it. I think for MJF having a group of his own, which is, a familiar history that we are mostly aware of, I think it could be really beneficial to AEW's product. I think for AEW, it makes a lot of sense to bring those guys in because they can be really good singles guys even after the group is over. So there's a lot of upside to that. But as of now, AEW has decided not to do this. Why have AEW decided not to do this? I'm going to assume it's largely due to the fact that AEW right now is just kind of focused on what they currently have instead of some of these fans' fantasy booking ideas and stuff like that, which is fine. Obviously, nothing wrong with that, but wouldn't mind seeing these guys getting picked up, and that's for sure. That brings us to our next topic. Saraya, obviously an active member of the AEW roster. It's really interesting. She was on the Hall of Fame podcast with Brad Gilmore and Booker T, and she actually said that she is open to returning to WWE. She says, I love WWE and I don't have any negative feelings towards them. I mean, they raised me. They saved me a lot. I appreciate them so much. The idea of going somewhere else was only because the potential of my brother being there was a big thing. I just wanted him to be a success in wrestling, but I love WWE. I would absolutely. If there was something that they needed from me, which was exciting, I would definitely go there. That would be silly not to. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to do something fun, hell yeah, I'll jump on board. Now, this is really interesting because Saraya is, she's actively talking as if she's not going to be part of AEW. Even when she did casual conversations with Justin Dillon, you guys might know the Wrestling Classic. She was asked about the potential match between her and Mercedes Moné in the company, and she says that they both wanted to, but basically she goes on to say, it should have happened a while ago. It is what it is. We wanted it, but it hasn't been the right time, I guess, and I may not be able to do that with her. So obviously, it kind of sounds like Saraya might be 1 foot out the door. And this is very interesting for a variety of reasons. I think AEW clearly knows that Saraya, her contract was, I think, extended is the term. But she had like an option for 1 year. To me, it feels like with the way that she's not being utilized, it seems like Tony Khan is aware that she's probably not going to be sticking around long term with the company. And then obviously her brother was just recently let go from the company. So obviously, I think that also hurts her chances of re-signing with the company if that's the case. Do I think WWE would bring back Paige? Absolutely. I do. I think WWE would. I think we, especially now that we know, like, medically, like, she is able to compete, Yeah, I think WWE would bring her back. Do I think WWE would have Paige return and wrestle full time? No. But I do think there would be some opportunities for her there, which would obviously make a lot of sense. Now, if you're Tony Khan, the real question is here, how exactly do you feel about Saraya being in this particular situation where she is doing podcasts, basically talking about potentially going back to WWE? I'm sure that's not a good feeling for Tony Khan. I'm sure that's not a good feeling for AEW. But also at the same time, too, she has not been focused on in a very, very long time. And do I agree that there would have been some money between Saraya and Mercedes Moné? Yes, absolutely. I think that would have been a great pay-per-view match. It would have been a great storyline. But also at the same time, too, right now I'm very much enjoying what they're going to be building with Mercedes and Athena. They obviously planted that seeds with the Billy Starks match, so that is something to keep in mind. But it is very interesting to see how this is going. I don't know if this will be a long-term, hey, she's leaving, go to WWE type thing. We don't know what the long-term plan is, but it sounds like she's one foot out the door. And that brings us to the WWE controversy of El Grande Americano, a.k.a. Chad Gable in a mask, ? I think we can't confirm it's 100% him, right? But obviously, the storyline here is Chad Gable went to Mexico. He wants to beat the luchadors. Now he's got a lucha mask. It's a storyline. Some people like it, some people don't. But there's been a lot of backlash from fans after last night because WWE had El Grande Americano officially being announced as a member of the Raw roster. And Chad Gable was sick and couldn't compete. So El Grande Americano gets an entrance. He got a vignette, a video package. And basically what ended up happening here is El Grande Americano's gimmick is a AI doctored video where it shows this history lineage of him being this very, very big success story from the Gulf of America. And of course, there is some political talks here. There's a lot of people who are upset with WWE, acknowledging it as Gulf of America. Obviously, with the new president in charge of the United States, the name of Gulf of Mexico has been changed to Gulf of America. A lot of people feel like this is racist. A lot of people have come out and they're talking very, very poorly and negatively about WWE. They are very upset about the fake lineage, and they basically feel like WWE is shitting on luchadors and the Mexican culture and the country of Mexico. And I think a lot of people, honestly, are looking into this a little too deep. I think if you look at it from a very easy perspective of, obviously the video is going to be AI doctored. These would be the lengths that Chad Gable would go through to make everybody believe that he is not actually El Grande Americano. For crying out loud, the guy's wearing an American-made mask, right? But I think at the end of the day, people just need to realize this is professional wrestling. This isn't real life. This is no different than any other TV show. And, for those who are offended by it, like, I'm curious to hear why, but also at the same time, too, I think that WWE has been met with so much backlash here, but they're trying to tell a story, and they're trying to tell a story where a guy who isn't actually from here is trying to lie and hide about it, and that's why it's incredibly exaggerated. But at the same time, too, this is not the first time. I mean, Bryan Danielson wore the Infinito costume. Cody Rhodes in AEW was Fuego del Sol's tag team partner. Listen, these guys wear masks. El Generico did it. I think a lot of people have this outrage. I think this is called selective outrage. I think for the most part it's fake outrage because when these things happen in other companies or in other time periods, I think a lot of fans were relatively quiet about it. But now people are using this as an opportunity to beat up WWE. And the reality is this is scripted entertainment, no different than a TV show or a movie, and therefore I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I'll let you guys tell me what you think down below.